What's
basketball fans? Welcome to episode 8 of the Hoopnut video log / podcast. So yesterday, because today's Friday morning, Manila time, April 17. Yesterday, April 16, Manila time, Thursday, we already found out the final pairings for
Finally.
the NBA playoff matchups. After, this past week na puro ang daming scenarios. It felt like we had about 100 scenarios in the West alone. So many things that could have happened. You had the Spurs falling from as high as number 2
to number
another number 6.
Yeah, it literally took the last day. Not
Last
sure if
day,
it's the
last game.
Maybe even the last game of the regular season
Yeah,
to
you have
finalize the seedings.
Yeah, you have the Nets sneaking in past the Pacers to get the 8th seed in the East. You have Russell Westbrook winning the scoring title.
Yeah, I guess consolation
But
somewhat.
actually making history kasi first time yata in a very, very, very long time na the scoring title was won by 2 teammates in the consecutive years.
Okay.
But, he doesn't feel good about it kasi yung Thunder, wala, nasinat sila. Wala sila sa playoffs. Kahit nanalo sila kahapon, nanalo yung Pelicans, di ba? The New Orleans Pelicans beat the Spurs. Strangely enough, as strange as that sounds, which catapulted New Orleans to the 8th spot and then sank the Spurs to the 6th seed in the Western Conference. So today's episode, Rolly and I will be talking about, predictably enough, the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
We're going to preview the 8 different matchups. Siguro per matchup, we'll give it a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Then we'll give you our own, predictions on who's going to win, who's going to advance past the first round. Ako personally, Rolls, kasi last year, I think we had about 5 matchups in the first round go fully 7 games.
That's rare.
I'm not sure we're going to have that many this time around, kasi especially in the East, I think some matchups are a little lopsided. But if you go to the West, there's potential for every series
Absolutely.
to maybe go 7 games. Even the 1-8 in Golden State versus Anthony Davis. Because it's going to be Golden State versus Anthony Davis anyway. It's not going to be the whole...
Hey, Tyreek Evans might say a thing or two.
Yeah, well, Draymond Green might say a thing or two to Tyreek Evans. Well, anyway, let's move on. Unahin natin the Eastern Conference.
Okay,
Maybe the easiest matchups muna. First, though, the 1-8 out East. You have the Atlanta Hawks, the Spursiest team outside of San Antonio.
Yeah.
Okay. The only other 60-win team, I believe, in the whole league. So only Golden State and Atlanta got to that 60-win plateau. Going up against the Brooklyn Nets, who are a little resurgent post All-Star. But I'm still not confident about how they're going to match up with the Hawks. What do you think?
This is actually a surprise because the Nets were somewhat in the tanking mode. Owner trying to sell the team.
Grabe ka naman, tanking ba talaga?
Kinda. They traded Garnett. Suddenly, now they're in the playoffs. Diba? So...
Do they want to be in the playoffs?
I think they got lucky. They definitely want to be in the playoffs, but I think we're stretching it if we give the Nets more than 1 game.
Wow.
Okay?
So
now,
sweep or 5 games?
Yes, sweep or 5 games. Looking at what they need to do to win, pretty much they need to play
near perfect
basketball. They need to limit iso situations, which will probably not happen. They need Lopez to average maybe 30 and 15. Possible, but probably won't happen going against Horford, Millsap. Very decent Hawks roster. Now,
Antich.
Hawks did lose Thavo Cephalosha, but
yeah.
I don't know how crucial he is.
But I think that's going to affect them
in the
later on
yes,
in the playoffs.
probably,
Maybe when they meet DeMar DeRozan or when they meet LeBron James.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or Jimmy Butler, if ever. So, yun yung mga tinignan natin dito. Ako, like you, I don't think the Nets are going to go very far. I'm not even sure if they're happy to be here. Sabi ko nga kasi they might be tanking. But the trouble is, if you limp into the 8th seed and you're tanking, parang lose-lose situation for you. Kasi,
lose-lose.
I mean, you're going to lose to Atlanta fast. You're not going to get to the draft position you want next year, or this coming draft, actually. And to be honest, I don't think a lot of fans are going to watch the Brooklyn Nets play the Atlanta Hawks.
I haven't seen the schedule, but they might
I don't
be
know.
stashed somewhere in
I don't
NBA
know.
TV.
I mean, the Nets, I don't think they have the best home crowd. I don't know. I just don't have a lot of love for the Nets right now.
No.
Brook Lopez has been playing quite well, actually. Siguro, the only way the Nets would be really pumped up is if they were facing the Washington Wizards with Paul Pierce.
Yeah,
All the things
yeah.
he said about
Yes,
them
yeah.
recently, diba? Calling them out. But, Nets are going to face the number one team in the East. By all intents and purposes, Atlanta is kind of like the perfect team that plays like a team right now. So I don't see Brooklyn winning more than one game. And one game might even be a stretch.
Yeah. So your
Already.
pick?
Hawks in 5 at most.
Okay, I'm going safe route, Hawks in 4.
Safe route na yun, ha? 4? Sweep! Grab the brooms.
Sweep.
Grab the brooms. Brooms in Brooklyn.
I think the Hawks
Going in
are
the same
going
sentence.
in as an underdog, as they say, so they want to prove something early. They've struggled in the first round a few times, or stretched it to maybe 7 games as an underdog, okay, especially like last year versus the Pacers. So I'm sure they have enough motivation and definitely enough firepower to really put it a higher gear at once.
All right. Okay, so Hawks in 5 for that one. Next up, the 2-7 matchup. You got the Cleveland Cavaliers. After a rough start to the season, they've righted the ship after resting LeBron, after getting some new players and trading away some of their
very good pieces.
not so good guys. They've risen to the second seed as they were expected to do so prior to the season began. Now going up against the Boston Celtics, who are very, very surprising.
Mm-hmm.
I have to give it to Coach Brad Stevens. Outside of Mike Budenholzer and Steve Kerr, I think he was the best coach this year.
Yeah, absolutely. He was just named the Eastern Conference Coach of the Month.
Wow, so congratulations to Brad Stevens. No? Did a very, very good job. Alam mo what else? Actually, post-All-Star, the two best teams in the East have been Cleveland and Boston. So this is a very interesting matchup. Si Evan Turner din sa Boston. Kanina ko lang nalaman, he's actually one of only, he's in the top 5 in the league in terms of triple-doubles. That's Isaiah Thomas, of course, coming off the bench. He's fearless, bordering on reckless. And I think that's the kind of player that can lead Boston to stealing maybe one game against the Cavaliers. I mean, you have Cleveland, you have Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, no playoff experience coming into this. I think that's going to be a factor. I think Cleveland's going to win, definitely, but I don't think they're going to go out unscathed or unharmed in this series. What do you think?
Well, there's one thing here. I think for the whole year, there's a very good case, of course, for LeBron being MVP. Okay, just look at Miami. Okay, out of the playoffs and becoming a lottery team. At the same time, I feel that LeBron has been going maybe 80-85% during the regular season.
Wow!
And I think he's ready.
Ano pa siya? 3rd, 4th, 5th gear pa.
He's ready to carry. You mentioned Love, Irving, the guys who have no playoff
Mozgov, J.R.
experience.
Smith.
At the same
Stockton.
time, I think maybe a week or 2 weeks ago, Evan Turner somewhat dissed LeBron.
Wow!
Somewhat, huh?
The best thing to do, Mr.
They
Turner.
mentioned about taking down my LeBron posters, blah, blah,
Wow!
blah, and not being scared to face him. So, factor that in, LBJ might be fired up. Might be. Okay, pwede rin cruise control pa rin siya. Alam naman natin siya.
I think he will be cruise control early on, but
Okay, so
I think they have enough firepower to just, go through the Celtics in at most, ito na prediction ko. Cleveland, again, at most, 5 games.
okay, for this one, I guess no sweep. I will agree no sweep. I think Brad Stevens and Isaiah Thomas will have good enough learning series, and they should be able to take at least one game. Okay, but I don't want to say sweep again. Baka mali.
All right, next up, the 3-6 matchup. You have the Chicago Bulls. I actually was a little surprised they rose to number 3. I thought Toronto would have locked it in, but the Bulls were able to. I think they won their last 4 or 5 games of the season to move up to the 3rd seed, and their reward is facing the Milwaukee Bucks, who had the worst record, I believe, in the East last season, if not the whole league actually. And then they moved up to the number 6 seed this season. So a very, very good rise for the Bucks. Good job for Jason Kidd. They have a really nice, lengthy, athletic young core that will get beaten in 6 games by Chicago's veterans and Chicago's humongous front line. That's my prediction. Chicago in 6 for this one. What do you think?
We'll have agree. Safe pick, I think, 6 games. The Bulls can definitely take it in less. Derrick Rose is slightly getting integrated into their offense, so we'll look for him to play more minutes in the upcoming series. At the same time, I think a big factor would be how can the Bucks stop a very good and resurgent Pau Gasol.
Okay.
Man,
That's going to be very difficult because Pau Gasol has been a double-double machine.
Yeah.
And he's been healthy this season for the Bulls, and that's been their main issue the past 3 or 4 years. Now, I don't think they've ever had a healthy starting five going into any playoff series the last
This is
3 or
actually
4
very
years.
rare, yeah.
So, I mean, you're looking at a starting five of Noah, Gasol, maybe Dunleavy at the 3, you got Butler and Rose. Coming off the bench, you got Brooks, you got Mirotic, you got Taj Gibson. That's a very, very, very strong 8-man roster right there. That could be...
That's it for
Tibbs.
Tibbs.
Yeah, his
That's
rotation
it.
right
That's
there.
it.
May konting Antoine Moore siguro, pero parang yun na yun, di ba? And
That's
I
it.
think that's good enough to beat Milwaukee.
Definitely.
What's your prediction here?
Italy, I'm gonna go
Milwaukee in ano?
Milwaukee, if maybe they play 20 games, maybe Milwaukee will win 5.
Okay, so Bulls nga in 6.
Yeah, Bulls in 6. Okay, I think Milwaukee can sneak in a game, maybe 2, with all their athleticism. And I'll give Jason Kidd some credit. He can coach. Okay, so
He can coach.
He can coach, so...
And I predict at least one spilled glass.
Nako.
Spilled cup in this series. What do you So yun, I'm happy also to see the Greek Freak playing in his first playoff series.
Mhm.
Out west, you have Anthony Davis playing his first playoff series. In the east, ako, masaya ako makita si Greek Freak. I think this is going to be good for him and his development moving forward. Okay, the last match up in the east, we have maybe the closest, tightest matchup, but maybe also not the prettiest to watch because these two teams have been playing miserable basketball post All-Star. Talking about the hashtag We the North, his team from his hometown, Toronto, the Toronto Raptors, limping into the playoffs, the number 4 seed, facing another team that's been limping the past month or so.
Yeah.
The Washington Wizards. Kung wala si John Wall dito, baka di pa ng playoffs to eh.
Well, actually, you know what? Yeah. Especially because he also lost Beal for a while, for
Yeah.
about 6 weeks or so.
So you talk about this. I don't want to talk about this series. They
Okay,
both suck.
sige.
You're a Raptors fan. Let's go.
Okay, let's go. So, this series, shots have been fired. I think started by Paul Pierce, talking about how Raptors don't have the it factor,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
At nag-reply si DeMar DeRozan dyan. Nako.
Okay, and then at the same time, even the GM again, short of cursing like what he did versus Brooklyn last year, cost him a lot of money. Did not say anything much. A bit. And then, of course, even the coaches, or at least Raptors coach in it, saying a few things here and there. Lowry saying he can't wait to face John Wall. So I'm looking for a very intense and physical playoff series. Basketball might be ugly. That's fine. That's fine. NBA playoffs are supposed to be like that anyway. So, this could go either way. Although the Raptors have the season edge, the season series edge, I will have to go with my
Your hometown.
pick.
Homer!
Raptors in.
sweep.
That's sweet
Yeah,
naman.
that's sweet.
I think 7. Okay.
7 games.
Pwedeng 6.
Talaga, Paul
Pwedeng
Pierce
6.
is sneaky good in a 7
Yun
game
nga.
series.
Yun nga. And Pierce won it for them versus Brooklyn last year in 7.
He's going to be
on
so
the
noisy.
road.
He's going to be a noisy SOB in this series.
On the road, and this time again, if there's a 7th game, it will be on the road for the Wizards. So, pwede talaga. But if I look at it this way, Pierce only plays about 25 minutes regular season. It could absolutely, it could improve, it could increase in the playoffs, but I think the Raptors are prime. Okay, Lowry, DeRozan, and especially this guy, I think might be the best player in their series.
Lou Williams?
Lou Williams.
Lou Williams with all those tattoos on his arms. Maybe the 6th man of the year right there.
Yeah.
Ako X-Factor ko, Jonas Valanciunas eh. Kasi ang laki ng Washington eh. Di ba? You got the Polish Hammer. You got Nene. That's going to be a big front line for Toronto to contend with. So Jonas Valanciunas, Amir Johnson, those guys have to be... And Tyler Hansbrough.
Hihi. Psycho T.
Psycho T. They have
Oh,
to be
your
under,
pick.
They have to be under A game. Ako, like you, I'm picking Toronto in 7 games.
Pero pwede talaga Washington.
I can see Washington moving on, sure, but I think the home court edge is gonna be big for Toronto. I think when the
Fans
Toronto
there,
fans are gonna
they're
want
great.
to see and heckle Paul Pierce, it's gonna throw him off his game. I think eventually that's gonna be the slightest, or that's gonna give Toronto the slightest of advantages. So Toronto in 7. We're bordering on 15 minutes. We're gonna close shop right now. Then our next episode, or part 2 of this episode, we're gonna move on to the wild
Much tougher West.
Western